On today's video, we'll be taking a look at how the magic markets just keep on moving. It's funny, right? You're here, I'm here, we're all together. The financial markets of Magic the Gathering just keep moving forward. And whenever they slow down for any reason, the more I study the financials and how Magic the Gathering's ins and outs works on the secondary market, the more it makes me think there should always be something going on. So whenever we have these lull periods, it kind of gets me. Welcome back, everyone. I'm MTG Moxman. Today we're going to be taking a look at how the markets move forward regardless of what's going on and what happens in the backdrop story as the markets move. Because we all know not every area of the market moves at the same time, but a lot of them get tied into events that are happening in the real world. Let me show you something. Behold the MultiChoice. Regardless of how you take your Magic the Gathering products and what area of Magic you like to cover, there are usually singled or sealed products. There's different formats in which these products are played in. There's reserve list and non-reserve list cards. There's also probably pseudo-reserve list cards they just don't tell us about. The markets happen now, every day. They happen every week, or they happen 5 to 9 years from now as things move along. But they're all tied into the MTG finance world. And that's what a lot of people forget about. They get tied up in their one game and they forget about what's going on in the entire universe that is Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast is well aware that the choices they make affect the secondary market. They have marketing teams that will take a look to see what cards and card combinations have done well at GPs and Pro Tours. That's how bannings happen. That's how they decide what goes forward and what doesn't. But at other times, they purposely make powerful cards that get banned, but it lures players into the hype train for new products coming down the line. Other times, Wizards will exploit nostalgia to get players in line. If you take a look at the upcoming set, Crimson Vow, a new hype set that has the train churning, I gotta admit, at first I was not too psyched about it. But a couple of weeks ago, when I did a video on what to expect in Crimson Vow, I told people you'll probably see some kind of overlay card of Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the bride of... And there it is. Right away on that first day, I saw the overlay cards of Count Dracula and Castle Dracula. All the stuff that I remember from the old day movies is now out there. And it costs Wizards nothing to do. So of course they're going to put that kind of card, those kind of cards, into a hype set like this because it didn't cost them a dime. It adds an alternate version that looks kind of cool and can draw in a different crowd base of people, just like they did with Ikoria and with the Godzilla cards. It sold very well initially for that reason. And at the end of this quarter, as I told people, it's not going to cost them anything to use a public domain item like that into their card overlays. They've already got the game mechanic in place. Way to go, Wizards. That was a very smart marketing thing, which will lead to some financial windfall for that company. Now, when you're touching base with old school players and old school hype, now when you look at old school players and you see the value and the windfall that their collecting has brought them, it didn't happen overnight. It took a very long time. And again, Wizards knows what's going on. They may not admit it. They may not make a big public thing that they're tracking cards like this, but they are looking how this market moves. And they're relating that to how they want the new markets to move for newer products of Magic the Gathering. They like that baseline of the old collectible, but they realize when they put special products out, secret layers, collector boxes, they want some value to be there. They want to draw those players in. So as these markets continue to evolve and move, the old school players like this were the baseline for how the new stuff will be collecting forward. There could be 20 different versions of Sol Ring, all with a different value attached to that particular card. And that could lead us to cards that are similar or better in value based on how rare they made that particular printing of that card. The art will really come into play on a card like Sol Ring because you have Sol Ring been around for 30 years, but the artwork has changed on different variations at different times. It's a really neat concept to see. If Wizards can make that work, then they can continue blending out cards like this that have value, but make sure there's a ceiling on the limits of what those cards are worth for a very long period of time before they have to worry about the value gaining too high and then they have to reprint it again. Now, when we're taking a look at Ren 7, this is a new card, but Wizards has determined it's a pretty good card. They've said, hey, we've made it cost 5. We didn't make it cost 4, that'd be too powerful. We made it cost 5. It is mythic. Lets you put land into play, because that's kind of like Ren's thing from the previous of Ren 6. And hey, it puts a Tree Folk into play based on the land play and value so he can defend himself. He's a fairly decent card. And guys, when you look at this card and you see it's going for $40, that's with taxes and shipping. It's around a regular edition copy of this card. But it is not so unobtainable as far as Wizards is concerned, because there's even more expensive copies, depending on a full art extended mythic of that card. And it sells like 100 copies every couple of weeks across a few of the formats. So people are buying this card, they are playing with it. But the worst thing that players think about when they buy cards like this is seeing it sink in value, seeing it go to like $10, $12 after it rotates or getting close to rotation. It really freaks out a lot of players in the financial side of Magic the Gathering, so they try to time when they should get rid of that card. Now the next card here, if you show you this one, this is Raiul, the original iteration of him from Dragon's Maze, and I've always loved this card. He is a 4 casting cost. He taps and untaps permanents. He can do damage to creatures and take them out of your way or hurt a player if he needs to. But he also could like minus his 7 ability, and he could flip 5 tokens, and all the tokens that came up heads or tails, whatever you call, you get an extra turn for each one you called. He was like a time-walking planeswalker, which is kind of weird because they didn't give that to him later on. But you can see here, he's only $5 now. His sales are slow, and there's no other editions of him other than what, the foil you could get inside of Dragon's Maze, which still commands about $20. You know, it has some value to it because the foils were a little harder to get back then. But when you look at this card, he is a good card. He does play well depending on the format you're playing him in. But look what's happened to that financial stability of that card. He has crashed down. A lot of people don't use him anymore. He kind of gets forgotten in the mix of things. And that's what happens to a lot of cards in Magic the Gathering. They can fade out. They can become forgotten in the slush of things because they're always printing a bigger and better card. Now remember this. Wizards does intend for this to happen. Okay, they have a plan on how they expect the cards to go, and they really don't like to deviate too far from where they see their profit margins going on the primary market when they sell you the product, which is, you know, if it has good cards in it, they know they can charge a little bit more. If they know it's not going to be as strong a set, they will roll back production, lower it down a bit, and they make it a little bit cheaper in some cases because we've seen some stores having to fire sell out Caladyme and stuff just to kind of get some cash back on the table. This can happen, and it is by design in some cases. It can be an accident, but it can also be by design. Don't forget that. Raiul Zarik's an amazing card. Ren and 7, when you compare them side by side, I'll take Raiul Zarik any day of the week. Yet he's only a $5 card or less in some cases, where Ren's commanding, that's right, the format we're playing in. Always remember that format. Depending on how you're choosing to play with your Magic cards and in which format you're playing will also help determine the value of that card. That's why the financials of Magic are so varied and diverse, and you'll see a lot of people taking different angles on a spec of a card based on what they think that card could be worth. I'm no different than anybody else. There are certain cards I favor over others, and I see potential long-term uses for cards, and a lot of people can laugh at you and make fun of you, but you got to stick to your guns sometimes. If that's the card you like, if that's the format you like to play in, if that's the way you like to digest Magic, then all kudos to you. And the last part I want to show you guys here today is cards that get improved upon. Here's Soldevi Excavations, the buyout card for this channel. It's going for about $50 Canadian, still sees steady sales. It's an Alliance card, and it also is reserve list. Now remember, this card was brought up by people on this channel, and we've raised it to a certain level because a lot of us are holding on to this card. Now the average there at $36.27, the market $34.95. You know, we've done a pretty good job here, and you can see it's €20 and 40 cents would get you that card. But if you remember what this card does, all right, when it says when Soldevi Excavations comes into play, sacrifice an untapped island or bury Soldevi Excavations. It taps to add 1 colorless and 1 blue to your mana pool, which is pretty awesome. But you can also tap 1 and tap itself, and you can go ahead and look at the top card of your library, and you can decide to put that on the bottom of your library. It's an early form of scry. Now, if you remember Throne of Eldraine, they gave us Castle Vantress. Now, Castle Vantress here from Throne of Eldraine is $1.50. Okay, it's a land. It's a rare, No different than Soldevi Excavations, but one is reserve list, one is not. One costs 4 if you want to scry 2, but that means it would cost 2 to scry 1. You see how it's very similar to Soldevi Excavations. They've just upped the mana cost a little bit. And of course, they made it come into play tapped unless you control an island, which is a slowdown. But it's the exact same as if we look at Soldevi Excavations. I find Soldevi is a more utilized card in the sense like I can just use it right away with 1 mana, no problem. Whereas this one's going to take a few turns to get up to being able to pump out that much mana. And it ties up a lot of your land if you're going to use it for anything useful. But it's a way of Wizards bringing out cards with a similar playability format into newer production that doesn't break the reserve list and makes players still want to be able to play with that card. So after showing you both cards, you can see they're both similar and different at the same time. Yes, the mechanics of those two cards are similar to each other, but the differences are insurmountable. We know Soldevi Excavations has a print run of around 300,000 cards. Castle Vantress has what, 30 million or more? They are not even close in the collectability scale. But that doesn't mean that that other card is no good. It just means in a collector's world of financials, one has a much higher value threshold because it is such an old card and it isn't known. We know how many there were. Whereas a newer card is very hard to calculate ongoing value when you keep seeing it out there and there never seems to be any diminishment in how many are available on the market. This will be the biggest thing going forward. But again, if Wizards takes that tact and says, we're not going to print that card again for a very long time, that will increase the values and create their own mini market. If they say that artwork's never coming back, or if for 5 years they don't reprint a certain card, the value does rise because the market does eat up those cards eventually. It's just a new way of calculating it. The Magic world of financials is a wild and crazy place, and I'm happy to be here every day to talk to you guys about it. Have a wonderful day today. Think about those Magic financials, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow with another great video. Have a great day today. Hey guys, a big shout goes out to all my awesome patrons. Guys, the patron board will be updated for the Tuesday video. I'm looking forward to seeing all those new names up there. Guys, thanks again for that continued support. Patrons make the world go round, and you're my patrons. Hey guys, I hope you had a great happy Halloween and had a kicking good time and everyone got to chill out. I'm so glad I caught you guys here at the end of the video. I look forward to seeing everyone this week. Live stream should be back to normal. Thanks for hanging in there, and everyone have a great day today. And the Patreon thing will switch over as of tomorrow, I guess, on Tuesday. At the end of this video is Monday, so yeah, on Tuesday I should be able to do the full switch over for all the names that have changed. All right, guys, have a great one today. You guys are awesome. Hope you brought me some candy. Candy!